Welcome back, teachers, and good afternoon. Reminding you of the day one midday login as it is still open through the link crawling at your screen right now or sent in our in call messages. Make sure to access the link before it expires at 1:30 p.m. And also reminding everyone that the attendance will be checked thrice a day. 1 a.m. login earlier, and then the second will be the midday login, and the third one will be the log out as it is the last one. So you will be reminded also to log in for attendance from time to time. So just be prompt in accessing the link so you won't miss it. For this afternoon, we will now have our plenary session. We will talk about the critical components that contribute to the successful implementation of learner-centered learning experiences. A topic very pivotal to our learning modality now, since as the facilitators of learning, we must learn how to focus our efforts on the students, since most of the students' learning takes place at home and that they are most likely learning on their own. So for this afternoon, we are blessed to be an audience to our resource speaker who has been with us ever since this new learning modality started. Let us welcome our ever active and inspiring university president, Brother Jose Mari Jimenez, FSC. Brother? As we are still waiting for Brother JJ, please take this time to log into our attendance with the link on the bottom of our screen crawling, and or it can also be found in our in-call messages. So teachers, please do access the link now before it expires at 1:30 p.m. Thank you.
Sige lang, bro.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello.
Afternoon, brother.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Afternoon, bro.
I'm about to share today is the result of a conversation that we started last year. Last year, I was asked to review the vision mission of the school and to give my feedback. And one of the things that struck me about our vision mission is that it makes a claim. It proposes the vision that we create a learner-centered environment. I think that's an exciting idea, but the engineer in me started to wonder, how are we going to build this idea and make it concrete and real for everybody? Hence, I started on this small project to examine how different people try to put in place a learner-centered environment. And what you have with you and what we have shared with you is an 11-page rubric that I tried to piece together from various sources, mostly from the National Standards for Quality Online Learning. It is a proposal for how learner-centered environment could look like in our school. It has been tweaked so that it lends itself to both remote and in-person interactions. What I'd really like to do is to get everybody involved in crafting this document. We need to have a conversation about what we want learner-centered learning environments to look like? In my mind, we need to level off on expectations. I think it's important that we clarify expectations of teachers mostly, because people tend to perform better if the expectations are clear. And that's why this document that I'd like you to reflect on in today and in the next few days is going to be a very important conversation piece for us, because it will be a means for leveling off our expectations in building a learner-centered environment. Our goal for today's presentation, of course, is not to look at the rubric in detail. No? I think we will stretch that over the next 2 or 3 days. What I'd really like to do with you today is to try to summarize the document by articulating the 3 most important challenges in embracing a learner-centered environment. Okay? I'd like to begin with this slide with a little preliminary. Okay. Here is a science class in grade 3, and you will see 2 columns here in this presentation, how differently 2 teachers can approach the standard or implement the standard. I think this is about the phases of the moon. No? This is a grade 3 lesson. I want you to look at the way the teacher implements the standard and tell me what you think is different between the 2 approaches. Okay. I won't call for a volunteer because there's too many of you. Okay. I think you will be shy to participate. Okay. So anyway, I think if you look at the Doc Floor. Okay, Doc Floor, thank you. Doc Floor, can we call on you,
Good
Doc Floor?
afternoon, brother.
Hi,
Good
Floor.
afternoon, everyone.
Hi,
The
good to see you,
second
Floor.
column, the first column is more like textbook questions. The second column is experiential, more on real life, based on real life experiences. Thank you,
Thanks,
bro.
Floor. Thanks, Floor. Floor, if I may ask, which classroom would you like to be in? The first column or the second column? Doc Floor?
Brother, sorry. What's that
Um,
again? Pardon.
I wanted to ask, which classroom would you prefer to be in? The first column or the second column?
Which classroom is more likely to? Ano yun, brother?
What classroom, if these were 2 classes or 2 teachers, if these
Yes.
columns represented 2 teachers or 2 classrooms, which classroom would you prefer to be in?
The second column, of course, brother.
Second column. Okay, thanks, Flor, for sharing. Thanks. So I think Doc Flor pointed it out quite well to us. The first column sounded like a textbook, sounded like the teacher going over a text. It's content driven. The interaction in the class is basically content driven. But it does meet the standard. No? It fulfills the standard, except that the approach is highly content driven. It feels like the students are going over pages of a textbook. Okay, and that approach, I guess you will find here and there once in a while. The second approach, I believe, is a little more experiential, more engaging, more process oriented. Science teachers will probably notice that in the second column, the series of questions really walk the students, the grade 3 students, through the scientific process. All scientific processes begin with observation, proceeds to making inferences and hypotheses, and then proceeds to creating experiments to test their hypothesis or inference. Okay? So it's a more engaging approach, one that involves what the learner sees. It's also more open-ended because you never quite know what students will see and what they will think. So these are examples of 2 different approaches to a standard, and we're really advocating more the one in the second column when we say we want to be learner-centered. And it's opposed to an entirely content-driven approach to teaching. In the learner-centered environment, the teacher does not play the role of the content expert. The teacher's role is basically a guide to guide the thinking process of students. The goal of the teacher in a learner-centered environment is not to transfer content or information. It is to enable the learner with certain skills that will transcend particular subject matters or content areas. So it doesn't matter if you're teaching biology, chemistry, or physics. The scientific process is a skill that transcends different content areas or different branches of science. And it's those skills, those processes you want to build in, no? Into the capacities of our students to engage them so that they can engage in science, no? And not just pass on content. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so in this next slide, you have here a section of the proposed revision to our vision mission statement where it talks about a learner-centered environment. And here we highlight three things, three key points, three key challenges in implementing a learner-centered experience. The first one is that we engage real-world problems. The second, a learner-centered environment promotes skills in community building. And number three, a learner-centered environment engages students in their passions, no? In their authentic desire for learning. I will go through each of the challenges or key features of a learner-centered environment in the next slide. So we'll take the first one, engaging real-world problems. So when we think about the problems of the world, and they can be very complicated, there can be very many, but one structured way to think about real-world problems is to use a framework. I like using the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as a framework, as a systematic way of thinking about the problems of the world that we can possibly engage in our different disciplines or classes. The nice thing about the UN SDGs, when it talks about development, is that development is not just economic. Okay? So you will see a few things there that are somehow economic, like poverty. Okay? But authentic development is not just economic, it's also environmental. You may have a lot of money, but if you're living in a deteriorating environment, your money cannot do anything for you to promote good health and a sense of quality life. So a real part of the UN SDGs framework is that development must also be environmental. If you go over the 17 goals, you will also see that development is also socio-political. It talks about equality, it talks about inequality and the rights of people. So again, development from this perspective is not just economic. You may have a lot of money, but if you are not free to speak, if your rights are not recognized, then that doesn't go very far. Our economic resources don't go very far in promoting authentic quality life. This framework is quite broad, and I believe that any discipline can find its place here. These goals are not separate units, they're kind of interrelated and flow into each other, and will allow us to collaborate across disciplines in working on common problems. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. I think one of the challenges of personal challenges is that, as Saint LaSalle says, we need to practice what we preach, basically. If we are going to invite students to engage real-world problems, then they must see us, their teachers, also involved, engaged in real-world problems. We must commit ourselves individually as educators to something larger than ourselves. We must commit ourselves to making the world a better place. No? to put it poetically. And if they see us doing that, if we witness that through our own example, I think it will invite them to take on a similar commitment. Perhaps our students will have a different advocacy or commitment, but it's important that they see their teachers committed to something. So I think the personal challenge really of embracing a learner-centered environment, of engaging real-world problems, is that you and I have to consciously choose to be involved in something larger than ourselves. We have to be involved in making our school, our community, our country a little better. Okay? And it doesn't have to be very grand. I think if you look around this school, there are already many things you will see. There will be many problems you will see that you can start getting involved in. So if you're not comfortable talking about big national issues, start with the school. Start with the school. And I'm sure you will see many things here that you can get involved in and to make this school a better place. Okay. So let's pause there for a while and think about that question there. What advocacy, what real world problem do you want to engage in personally? Let's just pause for the next 1 minute and give that a thought. Let's move now to the second challenge of creating a truly learner-centered environment. And the second challenge is really about collaboration to build a community of diverse learners. Collaboration to build a community of diverse learners. You will see in this slide a patient, and you will see that every real-world problem actually involves collaboration across disciplines. No one discipline can solve a real-world problem, because in reality, we all need the expertise of other people to adequately address a problem. And in this case, we have a problem of a patient. And you know that's true. Every time you go to the hospital, you tend to visit more than one doctor to get a good view of what's really happening to you. Okay. And I think the same is true. That's an analogy for what might happen in school. We'd like to see more collaboration, first and foremost, across disciplines. We want to see more collaboration in our schools across disciplines for engaging real-world problems, because that will make the approach more real. The students will feel it's more real because they're bringing together what they know from different subjects to bear on the chosen problem or situation. We can move on to the next slide, and you will see here an example on climate change. Climate change is not just about the science of the atmosphere. It's about how the atmosphere affects people, their health. There is an aspect to climate change that is political. As you know, there's always between the industrialized countries who have made their wealth from burning emitting greenhouse gases, and those countries that are less industrialized. So there's a political dimension to that as well. Of course, there's an educational dimension to it, and so on and so forth. So this is another example of a real-world problem that, if we are to address it adequately, will require us to collaborate across disciplines. So one real challenge to all of us to embrace a learner-centered environment is to work with persons from other disciplines. I think, reflecting on this one, the challenge to us on a personal level is letting go of some degree of control. I think if we manage the subject on our own and we are the expert, then we have control over everything. However, when we start collaborating with somebody, the challenge is you have to give up some of the control you have over the way the learning experience is designed or created. So I don't know how willing you are to give up some of your control over the way a subject matter is taught. No? You have to learn to share the space, as it were, with somebody else. I don't know if you know the story of these two kids who one afternoon decided they wanted to play. It was a girl and a boy. And the girl said, so nakita silang magkaibigan and oh, laro tayo. Sabi ng girl, sige laro tayo ng bahay-bahayan. Bahay-bahayan, sabi ng boy, boring yan. Boring ang bahay-bahayan. Gusto ko maghabulan tayo, cups and rubbers. Ayaw naman ng girl ng cups and rubbers kasi ayaw niyang tumakbo. Okay? So what's the solution? Anong lalaruin nila? Okay? So, they tried to put their heads together. Kasi ganito na lang. Laro tayo ng bahay-bahayan. Ikaw yung kapitbahay ko, pero magnanakaw ka. Okay? So they ended up playing bahay-bahayan, but the neighbor was a thief, a robber. So I don't know. Maybe that's an interesting game. Okay, living with your neighbor who happens to be a thief. Okay, but this is an example of when we collaborate, something different comes up, and you don't really get what you like. You don't get everything of what you like. It's a compromise. So for educators, when you work across disciplines, be ready for something new. Be ready to be surprised at what the outcome is going to be. But also be ready to let go of some of your own control over the way a topic is developed. Because that's what's going to happen when you collaborate with somebody. Okay. The challenge of St. LaSalle in our next slide. Okay. Challenge of St. LaSalle. Oh, sorry. Okay. So aside from collaborating across disciplines, I think it's good to remember that LaSalle University Ozamis is part of a large network of LaSallian schools in the Philippines. And we want part of the community building experience we want to create is to expand the interaction of our students, not just between teacher and student, not just between LSU student and another LSU student. We want to expand their interactions to other students in other cultures, other contexts. We want them to meet other experts from other places other than ourselves. Okay. So you are a member of a large network of educators, not only in the Philippines, but in LaSalle, the LaSallian East Asia District. We have schools in Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, okay, and Myanmar. Okay, all different people. And again, you want to collaborate with the educators in these places to see what kind of interaction, rich interaction can happen and what learning can emerge from these interactions. So when we build community, one challenge is to build community across disciplines, but perhaps to build community also across cultures so that the range of interactions our students get also extends beyond the immediate environment of Ozamis. Okay, all right. And the next slide, Miss Alex, thank you. The challenge of St. LaSalle to us is that learning always requires humility. We can learn from other people. I think that's the personal challenge to us. We may be experts, we may have earned the necessary degrees, but learning should continue. Learning should continue. And one way of learning is to keep interacting with different people and allow that interaction to give birth to new ideas, new experiences for yourself, and hopefully for your students. So let's pause for a while there and let's give that question a thought about whom we want to collaborate with and what challenges, personal challenges that might pose to us. So let's take a minute to think about that. Let's move on to the third challenge of creating a learner-centered learning environment. And that challenge, which you will find in the rubric also, is really involving students in the articulation of learning goals, strategies, and even assessments. To involve students, to engage students in the articulation of learning goals, strategies, and assessments. We're so used as teachers to being in control of these things. We set the goals, we set the strategies, we set the assessment exercises. Okay? I think part of the challenge of building a truly learner-centered learning environment is if we are willing to share some of that power with our students and allow them to articulate the goals that are relevant to them through means that are relevant and make sense to them, and to assess them using, again, means that make sense to them. Of course, all under our guidance, but it will require us to share power with them in articulating the goals, strategies, and kinds of assessments that will be relevant for the class. This photo you see on the screen is a photo of a senior high class in LSU that I visited the start of the year. I think this is a science class of Miss Eva Don. Okay, apologies for not asking permission, ma'am. Okay, but during this brief encounter I had with our students, I asked them what they wanted to learn. And I was amazed at the kind of answers they gave. This is science class. Some of them said, "Brother, I want to learn music." Some said, "I want to learn how to cook." But others said, "Brother, I want to learn how to be kinder and more forgiving, how to be more patient. Brother, I want to learn to be more responsible and independent." These are the kinds of goals you probably won't find in the syllabus or in the curriculum from DepEd. But these are goals that the students are passionate about. They're committed to it. And the fact that you don't find these goals in the syllabus doesn't make the goal less valid. Just because it doesn't come from DepEd, it doesn't mean it's not a worthy goal to pursue. It's worthy to pursue these goals because these goals come from the hearts of our students. It's what they're committed to. And the challenge for us teachers is basically, how do we find the compromise between the required competencies or content of DepEd or CHED and the personally articulated goals of our students? That's where the art of teaching comes in. When you try to bridge the shoulds and the what ifs and the could be's of life. I think one of the practical challenges is that we don't have 10 students. You don't have 12 students. You probably have how many? 400 students? Okay. And engaging every student to articulate their goal, you could potentially have 400 different goals, 400 different strategies, and 400 different assessments. Now that's mind-boggling for one teacher to handle. And I offer you the example of Jesus, if you might want to draw inspiration from his story. Everybody's familiar with the story of feeding 5,000 people? Yeah? Okay. So imagine Jesus, he's one person, and there are 5,000 people in his class. All of them are hungry. How do you manage 5,000 people? Well, if you go to the Gospel of Mark, Mark chapter 6, you will see there, Jesus looks at these 5,000 people, and what's the first thing he tells them? He tells them, sit down in groups of 100. It's like the boat is sinking, okay? Group in 100. So, 5,000 divided by 100. What's that? What's 5,000 divided by 100? 50. 50. Okay, 50. So, Jesus is no longer thinking about 5,000 individuals. He's now thinking about 50 groups. It's more manageable, right? Clustering 5,000 into groups of 100 makes the whole task of feeding them a little more manageable. So, 5,000 divided by 100 person, that's 50 groups. And how many disciples does Jesus have? How many? 12. Okay, 12. Buhay pa si Judas, kaya 12 pa. Okay? Buhay pa siya. So, if you have 50 groups divided by 12, how many yan? Mga 9. No? Mga 9. Not quite 10. So, every disciple managed 9 groups. Okay yun. From a management perspective, if you're managing the performance of 8 or 9, that's still good. That's doable. So, you see what Jesus tried to do. From an unmanageable number of 5,000, he brought it down to 50. And since he had 12 disciples, he just farmed out the 50 groups to the 12. And everybody had 10 groups to manage, or 9 groups to manage. So, it makes the complicated task a little more workable. So maybe that offers some inspiration how we can engage our students in their varied learning goals. We probably won't be able to bring it down to a level of resolution where it's per student, but bringing them clustering into some kind of interest grouping might bring us closer to the mark. Okay. So the challenge of this, okay, and we can move on to the next slide. Every student is different. Every student is, no two students are alike. You might think they're the same, but everybody is different. Everybody has a passion. Every student has a desire, and we want to be in touch with that. To make our life more exciting, I think, to be in touch with what our students truly desire, what they're passionate about. And we want to connect them to the particular disciplines we are in charge of. Often as teachers, we can be focused on our work of teaching. Okay? But remember, it doesn't follow that just because you taught something, the students learned it. It doesn't follow that just because you taught it, the students learned it. Okay. So you want to connect them with something they're already committed to, something they're passionate about, okay? And you want to bridge that with what you need to deliver, okay? And make a connection there. All right, so let's pause for a few moments and let's think about that question. What do our students want to learn? What do our students want to learn? Okay, let's take a 1-minute pause on that. Thank you. Okay. I'm sure that's less than 1 minute, but because my time is nearly up, we're going to go to the next slide. Miss Alex, the next slide, please. Thank you. All right. The 11-page rubric that you already have in your possession, again, is a working document, and I'd like to hear your thoughts about it. Okay. These are our expectations. It's divided into 5 areas of competency. There are 5 areas of competency we want our teachers in a learner-centered learning environment to develop. These are instructional design, community building, learner engagement, digital pedagogy, and assessment and measurement. These are the 5 areas of competency that we want every teacher to develop. And we've elaborated that into a detailed rubric, which we hope you will go through and comment in the next 3 days or so. So later, we will do our breakout groups. We just want to hear a quick comment from people on the first section on instructional design. It's just 2 pages. Okay, you can take a quick read of those 2 pages, the rubric on those 2 pages. And in your small groups later, okay, part of your sharing is your thoughts about that section on instructional design. Okay, let's move on to the next slide, Miss Alex. Okay. All right. There are 3 challenges that I outlined, and this is the one reflection I'd like all of us to undertake. There are 3 challenges: engaging real-world problems, collaborating, and involving students in the articulation of goals, strategies, and assessments. Those are the 3 challenges of building a learner-centered environment. And we'd like to get your thoughts on this. We'd like to hear you share your thoughts on these 3 challenges. We're posting in the chat box a link. Okay? If you can all click on that link, and let's take the next 5 minutes to answer the questions you find in that form. Okay? Let's all take the next 5 minutes. So I'll keep quiet, promise. Okay? And we'll take 5 minutes to reflect on the questions on these three challenges. Okay? Your 5 minutes starts now. Grace na. What do I do? Okay. Okay. Our team here is telling me that none of you are answering yet. Okay. You can keep short answers. Okay. Short answers, not very long. We'll have 2 more minutes, please. Thank you. Okay. All right. I believe some of you are still answering. Okay, please continue to keep answering. In the meantime, we will now proceed to our breakout groups where you will share with the group your answers to these questions on the three challenges. Okay. So first order, when you get into the small groups, there will be a facilitator and we will invite you to share your reflections on the three challenges. After some time of sharing, the facilitator is going to move to a second agenda, which is to ask you to read the rubric on instructional leadership. And we don't need to write anything, but we will do a quick tour around the room and to get everybody's feedback or comment on the rubric on instructional leadership. So that's the second agenda in the small group. All right, and we will flash on the screen your facilitators and small groups. Okay. Ayan, ayan na po. Okay, now you see the names of your facilitators and there will be a pop-up. Pop-up. I'm told it's called the pop-up. Okay. So something will pop up on your screen. And okay, and we will open it now. Okay, something will pop up on your screen and please proceed to your breakout rooms. We will give you 20 minutes to go over the two agenda that we have outlined. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Brother Gino. May I ask po for the link of the form again to be sent on the chat box? Thank you po.
Sure, Miss Janelle. Miss Janelle, I added you already.
Brother Gino.
Yes, bro.
Are we in the groups now?
There is an invitation, bro, sa taas. There is breakout room invitation. Click
And
join.
I just stopped.
Join, bro.
Virgino, nagkamali ako ng pindot. Nabalik ako sa main room. Miss Alex.
Yes, brother.
Sir,
Um,
I mistakenly, ayun, I can see the join ulit again, sir. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you to our facilitators for facilitating the exchange. Just as a reminder, those of you who have not completed the reflection on the three challenges, we continue to give you time to reflect on them, and we'd be very happy to hear how these three challenges, your thoughts on these three challenges. The other task that I'd like to leave the group with is I'd like to hear your feedback on our rubric, on the proposed rubric for learners implementing a learner-centered learning environment. Like I said, it's a document that's work in progress, and we will be very happy to hear your thoughts on this document, which we hope will serve as our guide and point of conversation as we try to enable every teacher in the school to be capable of creating that kind of environment for our learners. So once again, thank you very much so there will be a link sent to you tomorrow so that you can post your comments and thoughts on our rubric. There will be a link sent to you tomorrow so that we can obtain your feedback on our rubrics. We hope to receive your feedback by Monday, February 28. Okay? So maraming salamat po ulit para sa inyong participation today, and let's all continue to work together and collaborate in building a good school for our students. To turn the screen now back to Ms. Abing. Ma'am, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother JJ, for that informative and inspiring talk that you just shared with us, especially that you also had small group discussions that will surely help our teachers improve in our professions. So it's true that in this new learning modality that we have right now, we need to be reminded as teachers that first, our commitment to this vocation will lead us to the success of the teaching and learning process for both the teacher and students. And two, we should engage the students with real world problems and make our world a better place in a sense. And three, give importance to collaboration, not just across disciplines, but also across cultures to, of course, cultivate problem solving skills among students, since it is more applicable in the real life. We also are taught of humility, that we should be humble to accept new ideas and we must continue to learn. And also, we must connect with our students and know what exactly they are passionate about. So, again, thank you, Brother JJ. Your words of wisdom will surely be of help, not just to us teachers, but mostly to our students in the long run. We will now take an afternoon break. Parallel session 2 will follow. Please proceed to your room flashed on your screen at exactly 12:15 p.m. 2:15 p.m. The links are flashed and or crawling at the bottom of your screen right now or sent to the
TechZONEd Con
in-call messages.
2022 Festival of Learning. TechZONEd Con 2022.
Just like earlier, all teachers from all levels, including the School of Graduate Studies, may choose to enter rooms according to the field of expertise from which they belong. You may leave this main plenary call and enter your preferred room through the link provided to you. Thank you and see you on the parallel sessions. Okay, good afternoon again to our teachers. So here we just discovered new things. The topics in today's plenary and parallel sessions, as we have observed, are very pivotal to the improvement and goals of this university. In the new learning environment that we are operating in right now, it's just right that we learn and adjust to the changes that took place due to this pandemic. So, not being sure when everything will go back to how it used to be pre-pandemic, we must equip ourselves with the right techniques and strategies to succeed in the new online environment. Let me call on Sir Nemor J. Capitania, a faculty of LSU, to give the synthesis for today's training. Sir?
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Indeed, we have a very fruitful day for having this TechZONEd Con 2022 Festival of Learning. And as we are about to end the first day, allow me to share with you my synthesis of today's activities. So it is certainly great to hear from this morning's keynote speech from our Chancellor, Dr. Rene Caseros, about where we've been at the outset of the pandemic and where we are now as we continue to hurdle the different challenges brought about by the online modality of learning. But despite these challenges, Dr. Weni shared to us the successes in online learning, and more particularly in the perspective of us educators, that aside from the technical as well as the pedagogical skills that we have developed over time, we also became more flexible, responsive, appreciative to students' efforts, developed a positive attitude, and gave high regard to self-care. And as we move forward, Dr. Wene also reminded us to be goal and process-oriented with emphasis on re-engineering teaching learning experiences. And during the first parallel session 1, entitled Essential Features of the Best Teaching Learning Experiences, I truly appreciate the data shared to us by our speaker, Mr. Luel Pacot, regarding the students' feedback on their experiences with online learning and their level of satisfaction in the areas of teaching and instruction. So it showed to us the areas we are excellent at and the areas that we must improve on. And just to enumerate to you the essential features of the best teaching learning experiences, so just to run through the 6 of them. First, we have the involvement of students with challenging ideas or people, requiring students' active engagement with the challenge, occur in supporting environments, encourage active real-world learning, involve other people, and finally invite and promote reflection. And as for this afternoon session with Brother JJ, so Brother JJ presented to us the critical components that contribute to the successful implementation of learner-centered learning experiences. And it is noteworthy that we recognize the challenges in building a learner-centered environment. And these are, just to repeat, number 1, we have engaged in real-world problems. And as Brother shared to us, it is aligned with the framework of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Number 2, we have the collaboration in community of diverse learners, because real-world problems require collaboration across discipline. And finally, involving the students in the articulation of learning goals, strategies, and assessments. This is a way of nurturing students' passion and sense of vocation, and as a way of acknowledging that every student is different, as cited to us by our president. And during the sharing with our group, it made me realize on the possible great advantages in addressing these challenges, but on the same page, we also realize that there are a lot of work to be done. But with the collaboration of the Lasallian community, we will surely find ways and means to achieve it. And finally, with the last parallel session on pedagogy in teaching and or approaches in learner-centered classroom with Mr. Rejnek Roble as our speaker, he introduced to us some strategies and approaches, as well as present some online applications for getting to know activities, collaboration activities, reflection activities. Also, interesting part of the afternoon is that we did an actual demonstration, and it was such a great experience to learn from the other teachers about their own methods in teaching using the online platform. Definitely, it's been a very productive day to me, and I hope that it's also the same with you. And I look forward for tomorrow's sessions, tomorrow's learning sessions, and hopefully that still we will have a very, very insightful and very fruitful discussion for tomorrow's activity. That would be all. And thank you so much. And have a wonderful day ahead, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Sir Nemor J. Capitania, for that very comprehensive synthesis of the day one of TechZone Con 2022. Well, truly, today was a great festival of learning, right? So, in grateful recognition of our speakers as they have shared their time and expertise in today's training, LaSalle University awards this certificate of appreciation to Mr. Llewell C. Pacot as a resource speaker for the essential features of the best teaching learning experiences for ABM. The same certificate is given to Mr. Jezreel Faith C. Montes as a resource speaker for UMS, Mr. Mark Chrisley O. de la Peña as a resource speaker for STEM, and Ms. Irene Almera C. Pastrano as a resource speaker for TVLE. We would also like to award this certificate to Brother Jose Marie Jimenez FSC as a resource speaker for the talk of creating learner-centered learning experiences. Certificate is also awarded to Ms. Rajnek Roble for discussing pedagogy and teaching and/or approaches in a learner-centered classroom for ABM. Ms. Darlene J. Filipino as a resource speaker for UMS. Mr. Deans Halalon as a resource speaker for STEM. And Ms. Jessa S. Branzuela as a resource speaker for TVLE. Once again, thank you, our dear resource speakers. We would like to announce that for tomorrow's parallel sessions, all participants will sign up in advance to ensure that they will be equally divided for the day 2 parallel sessions. So slots per session is limited to only 40 participants per session. So once the slots are filled in one session, please choose another. To access the sign-up form, please click on the link bit.ly/TZC 2022 sign-up sheet, which can also be found in the in-call messages or in your screen right now. We would like to request everyone to access the link now because we are feeding it live in our Google Meet call as we speak. All right. Am I seeing someone? Okay, I'm already seeing someone from the teachers who are already signing up. So to everyone who can access the link, please do fill up the link right now. So there will be room 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for tomorrow's parallel session. So I can see Miss Aline Vocal here, who signed up for room 1, Brother Vince Paildan, FSC, for room 1 as well. Rajnek Roble for room 3. Miss Mariel Josefa Taiko signed up for room 5. Miss Emmy Dungog for room 3. And for the parallel session 5, there are also people who are already signed up. Sir Jezreel Montes already signed up for room 1. Miss Rajnek Roble, room 5. This is for session 5. For session 4, there are a lot of people signing up already. So I encourage everyone to please sign up as well so that we can see your names here in our live feed. So as we can see, there's so many people signing up for room 1. So let us all fill up all of the other rooms also, room 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Please do pick those rooms as well so that we will be equally divided. Okay, so thank you so much, teachers, for filling out our sign up form for tomorrow's parallel sessions. So it will be available until tomorrow, minutes before the parallel session 4 will begin. All right, so sign up sheets will automatically close once the participants per room will reach 40. So day 1 log out will also be open at 4. Now it's already open because it's past 4 and it will be available until 5 p.m. So during this time frame also, you will be requested to fill up the evaluation form, which will be the key for you to receive your day 1 completion badge. It can be found in our in-call messages, so you can just click the link to access the form. Okay, day 2 a.m. login for tomorrow will start or will be open at 8:30 a.m. until 9:20 a.m. only. So that will be all for the announcements. I hope that everyone was guided. Thank you and see you tomorrow. For now, before we have the closing prayer and before we end our day 1, may I request everyone to please turn on your cameras for our day 1's photo op. Let us show the appreciation that we have for the organizers by giving them our best and biggest smiles. So let's smile and look at the camera in 3, 2, 1, and smile. All right, another one for the next page because we are 160 plus in the call, so we have to smile for a couple of times, okay? So smile lang talaga. All right, for page 2, we have okay, so 3, 2, 1, and smile. Another one, next page. 3, 2, 1, and smile. Until sakit na. Okay. Another one. 3, 2, 1, and smile. All right. So I hope that our EDMST got all of our photos. So, all right. Thank you again, teachers, for your participation. Before we formally end this, let me call on Brother Michael Vincent Raleigh, Padalian, FSC, CL Academic Assistance, to lead the closing prayer for this afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before we start our prayer, I just like to share this line from the Apostolic Exhortation of Pope Francis, Christus Vivit. Prayerful discernment requires starting from a willingness to listen to the Lord, to others, to reality itself that always challenges us in new ways. It speaks of prayerful discernment because I think our sessions today invites us towards that one, prayerful discernment. And so we continue to remember that we are in the holy presence of God, in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Most Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, we pray for the grace to be open and courageous in allowing ourselves to be challenged by you, by others, and by our reality in this educational ministry. Continue to grant us the necessary graces we need as we continue to persevere towards our growth as educators and ministers to the students you entrusted to our care. Our Lasallian prayer, I will continue, O my God, to do all my actions for the love of you. Saint John Baptist de La Salle, pray
Pray
for
for
us. Live Jesus in our hearts forever.
forever.
In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen.
All right. Thank you, Brother Vince, for closing our day with a prayer. Please don't forget to log out through the link flashed and or crawling on your screen or send to our in-call messages for our attendance. Okay, so to everyone here, thank you again. This has been Miss Christine Honey. Thank you so much for your participation and attendance in today's TechZONEd Con 2022 Day 1. It has officially ended and I shall see you again tomorrow. Live Jesus in our hearts forever.
Forever.
Animo Lasal. Before we leave, let us feel the Lasallian spirit as we sing along to the university's alma mater song.
Hail, hail, alma mater, hail to De La Salle. We'll hold your banner high and bright, a shield of green and white. We'll fight to keep your glory bright, and never shall we fail. Hail to thee, our alma mater, hail, hail, hail. Hail, hail, alma mater, hail to De La Salle. We'll hold your banner high and bright, a shield of green and white. We'll fight to keep your